Hey everyone, welcome to Archery Northwest Consumer Reports. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start doing some consumer reports, not sponsored, not paid, not given stuff by any manufacturer. We're gonna be testing all this different things on the market. We're gonna start with high-end moving sights. So we purchased these on our own so that we could test them individually against one another. So we've got two spot hogs. One of them is the Boonie, which is on this Lift 39 from Mathews. It's got custom gas strings on there. It's got their one-piece takedown quiver that removes. I've got their integrated stabilizer. I've also taken the block, the mounting block off of it so that I could use the integrated system for that too. I'm also testing with the 4-fletch with blazer vanes and a small wrap, an Axcel long range 4mm match grade arrow. That's going to be my hunting setup right here as we speak. It's got the ultra rest, integrated rest on there too. So when you run all these integrated components, it allows you to run Mathews quiver because it's so tight in configuration, but it makes the bow super balanced. So it's once you go to a specific rest or a specific quiver, it'll allow you to integrate everything. So keep that in mind. This is the limb legs that I've taken and put on there, so I'll not hunt with those. I'm just going to use that so I can stand the bow up when I'm walking down range. But this is their setup. What we're going to do is we're going to shoot these bows in at 30 yards. So we're going to shoot each of these sights in. After we sight them in at 30 yards and we know we're hitting accurately with them, we're going to remove them from the Bridge-Lock system. We're going to put them back into the same spot. We're going to tighten them down again and see if they have the same impact. If they do that, then that's the first check. The second check is we're going to tie a sandbag to these sights and we're going to drop them at about with about 5 pounds of weight on there. So by the time it hits the ground, it's going to be 30 to 40 pounds of weight on there, as if you tripped and fell. And will that sight survive? Then we're going to put it back in place and see if it survives that again. This will help you as a consumer decide what sight you want, how much weight that you want in metal to screw onto your sight or to your bow, and then feel confident when you're walking around there. If you're like me, I fall several times a year, and sometimes I cram my bow into the ground, sometimes I don't. It just depends on where I'm at. So there's those little Widowmaker slips that you do, that you step on something that's wet on the ground and you're gone. So that's the purpose of dropping a sandbag on these, or dropping the sight with a sandbag attached, is to see if they can take an impact. We're not trying to break them, we're trying to see if they'll bend or if they'll move from the locked in configuration. If they happen to break from just a normal fall and multiple sights survive, that should narrow down your selection. It'll help narrow down ours as far as what we carry in our shops. Since we have 4 locations, we want to provide the best customer service for you, but we also want to provide the best products. Now, some of these sights are made in China, some of them are made in the US, so we'll talk about that as we go as well. And then hopefully this will help you decide what sight is best for you. We've removed all the blocks from these because we're going to use the Bridge-Lock system. We've got Axcel, we've got CBE, we've got Trophy Ridge, we've got another Fast Eddie from Spot Hogg, we got Black Gold, and we got an HHA Tetra. So we'll test all these along with the Boonie and then see which one stands up, which one's the most repeatable, and where you should spend your money. All right, on our test, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot the Boonie. I've already sighted this in at 30 yards. We're just gonna confirm that. Then I'm gonna remove it from the dovetail and reinsert it and see if it hits the same spot again. We're gonna do that to each of the sights that we're testing to see how accurate they are and how repeatable they are. If everything goes well, all the sights should hit the mark again. So after we sight them in, of course, it's going to always do that. But if you, for some reason you bump it or you have to take it out to put it in your case and put it back away and then reinsert it again, it should go back into the same location just like any high-end target sight. Since you're paying this much for a sight, regardless of whose it is, it should be able to be repeatable. If it's not, then that's going to show you that the sight needs to be worked on, or the dovetail mount, the Bridge-Lock system from Mathews needs to be worked on. So we're going to find that out today. Going to take a few shots. I've sighted in at 30 yards roughly. These are going to be heart shots. They're just a little easier to aim at. Normally I'd shoot at mid-lung, just above the heart if I'm shooting an animal, but it's easier to aim at for this test. All right, it's a tight little group there, about maybe a 1.5 inch group there at 30 yards. So we're gonna take the sight off after I pull these arrows. I'll show you that I'm doing that, reinstall it, and seeing if it hits the same spot. All right, shot a nice little group downrange there. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the sight off the Bridge-Lock system. Just got a set screw in there. It's really not big enough to put a thumb screw in there because again, you'll lose a space for one of your arrows. I actually had to take an arrow out to get it, the Allen wrench in here. So I'm running the second hole. You can see where I'm set up there. If I wanted to take it off, put it away, whatever I wanted to do, I'm gonna simply slide it back into the same spot, tighten it back down, and shoot it again. Now, my hope is that all these sights that I do this to, the Bridge-Lock is got enough stability, and the dovetails on each of the sights have enough stability to be accurate after they've been reinstalled. So we're gonna see that right now here in a second. Looks like it hit the exact same spot, which is really good. It makes me happy because this is the sight I plan on hunting with. All right, looks like we're pretty good. Broke those last two shots a little bit higher, which is expected that it's gonna hit an inch or two high. And I'm gonna disregard that low right shot because it wasn't a clean shot. So still sighted in really well with that sight. We'll move on to the next one. All right, so I've taken the Spot Hogg boonie off. We're gonna walk down and throw it on top of the target, grab the next sight and compare it. Now I have two Spot Hoggs. The boonie is the new one for 2024. This is the one that I think is gonna be their top seller in the next year or two. What they have been selling the most of is the Fast Eddie Axcel. We'll test that one here in a minute, but the next one we're gonna pull off here is the Landslide. So this is the True Ball Landslide, and we're gonna run it. You can put whatever extension you want on that. I'm just gonna pick a spot where I'll be able to remember what I did, and it's at the logo here. It doesn't matter what you run it at, it just matters after you sight it in. So we're gonna run it the same way. Now, the Landslide series is what Mathews contracted with True Ball to be able to create the Bridge-Lock system originally. And after they did that, they also allowed other companies to make dovetails that would fit, and each company fell behind a little bit because the True Ball Axcel was so far ahead when they created the Bridge-Lock. Now, there's goods and bads about that, in my opinion. One of the good things is it keeps one company in the front, the company that decides to work with the manufacturer of the bow. The bad part is because of that, it really limits what you can do. I like when companies work together. I understand there's competitiveness, and we want that competitiveness, but we also want options when it comes to accessories to put on our bows. We don't want one specific company to dominate. So I'm gonna sight this bow in, make sure that we're hitting. It's not gonna hit right now. It's somewhere set in the 100-yard mark, so we're gonna end up cutting until I can get it sighted in. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut the camera, sight in at 30 yards, and then once we're sighted in, we'll shoot 3 arrows at 30, take it out, put it back in, see if it hits the same spot. All right, now I've put in the True Ball Landslide. This is probably my second favorite sight. It's definitely got more features on it than just about any other on the market, because they're in the target world. They have the Achieve XL, that does really well for them. So they've got locking windage adjustments. They've got quick detach options also, so you can change from a 3-pin head for what this one is, and they also have a Ranger pin, which is a 2-pin like the Spot Hogg dual pin. You've got this little cool stop right here. So once you get it set up where you want, then you can lock this stop in so it's your home setting. Spot Hogg has that too, just in a little bit different way. It's got 2 pins on this side right here. It's got siding rails. You can either put marks on it by running a program, or you can side in using different tapes that they have that are made of metal and etched, laser etched, so that you can find your marks really quick. It's got different locations for mounting the sight as well on the rail. Most of them do, so this is not unique to the Landslide, but it is a really good setup for them. They also have a rheostat, so if it's too bright or sunny, you can turn that down. They've got one thing that's pretty cool too. They have a side-in feature for their pins that is micro adjustable. So you loosen the pin that you want, then you dial it, and only that pin will move. For the purpose of sighting this in and testing this, I'm just leaving them in the factory setting. It just comes that way, looking pretty in the package. You would normally sight it in and put it where you want in the housing. Normally your bottom pin would be just above the bubble, so it'll maximize the distance that you can shoot out of it. I'm gonna use the bottom pin right now just to shoot this in at 30 yards. I've got it pretty close here, so we're just gonna test the groups. Then we're gonna remove it, put it back in, and see if it has the same impact again. Well, that was a poor shot there. So that one broke a little bit right. So that should show up the furthest right shot downrange. So that group is just slightly right, but I quickly sighted it in, and it's really the group size that we're looking at. And then now we're gonna go pull those. We're gonna take the sight out of the Bridge-Lock system and then reinstall it and see if it has the same impact again. We're at the beginning of the logo for the divots here for the sight locations. Those are about, it looks like they're about 3/4 of an inch in between each setting. So we're gonna loosen this up, take it out, and reinstall it again. So here's one of the things that we're doing here. I can hold my own on shooting. I can shoot about a 1.5 inch group or less at 30 yards pretty consistently. And you would ask, why wouldn't you have somebody more accurate shooting and testing these? Well, I've asked a few different pros, and the problem is they're sponsored by someone, and so their sites are involved with this test too, so they don't want to see anything negative about that or put anything out there that they would hurt their sponsorship from, which I respect. If you're going to be sponsored by someone, you need to respect that product. You need to endorse that product as best as you can, but what we do is a little bit different. This is more of a consumer report, so we don't care what they think about us. We sell their product, we're happy to do it. We wouldn't carry it if we thought it was junk to begin with. So in that aspect, that's what we're looking for, is just the most durable, most repeatable high-end sights on the market. If you're gonna spend the money, we wanna be able to tell our customers, hey, if you're spending money, this is what I would recommend you spend it on, and this is why. So I'm lined up in the same spot again, got it tightened down. We're gonna shoot that same group again. Pretty simple test. All of these sights should pass this part of the test. It's the last part that I'm curious about the most, is the durability test. So we're gonna kind of check that and see how that goes here in a minute. There we go. So again, really accurate part of the sight. This is the TrueBall Landslide by Axcel. I'm sorry, I keep saying TrueBall, but it's TrueBall XL. So the XL is going to be your sight side, and then the TrueBall is going to be your release side. So I hope that you could follow along with that as we're doing that. Now we're going to walk down, we're going to pull those arrows, we're going to set back up, and we're going to use the next sight in the line there and see how it does. These three are touching right here, so it's a sub 1 inch group there. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I expect out of a sight like this. Now we're gonna go to the HHA Tetra. This is a sight we don't carry, but I really like the design of it. It's a solid sight too, so if we carry it, it's gonna compete directly with the Spot Hogg and with the Axcel and the Black Gold. Those are our mainstays when it comes to these high-end movers. We also carry CBE and Trophy Ridge, but we don't sell very many of them because once you start getting up into that price range, the cost matters, but where it's made matters. So the CBE is made in China, and so is the Trophy Ridge. And when a guy is spending that much money, he don't mind spending an extra 40 or 50 bucks to get the US made one. And you can tell a difference in the metal. So the HHA Tetra is what we're gonna run next. Okay, now we've got the HHA Tetra in here, really streamlined second, third axis adjustability, similar to a black gold. It's on the bar. It's got a lock like the Booney does. The HHA, I think, had this first where you just break it, turn it, and set it up. It's got a dual pin indicator because this is the 2-pin configuration. If I was going to shoot it, this is the one I would shoot. It's a clean look. I've sighted in at 30. The one thing I've noticed is I'm hearing the rattle from the optics on the way that it's heat shrunk onto the base, so it gives it a lot of light. So that's something I think they could probably do a little better job of. Either that or the little insert ring that has the bubble in it. But I think, if I'm hearing it right, I think what I'm hearing is it might be the plastic ring there. So if that's the case, they could glue those in a little bit better, use some kind of rubber silicone so that it would actually, instead of epoxy, so it would actually absorb more vibration. But it could be the optic itself, but I am hearing that noise. So that's something I wish wasn't there. Otherwise, the sight is really set up well. So I've sighted in at 30. I'm gonna start shooting now. Then we'll take it off. Insert it again. I'm at full extension here, so it's right at the T and the Tetra for the sight lock there for the Bridge-Lock system. All right, this is a really clean sight to look through. It reminds me of the Spot Hogg dual pin the most. I really like that configuration. Those vertical stack pins I just really like. Now, the second pin is not movable just like it is on the Spot Hogg, but that's all right because it's got an indicator that'll always tell you what the mark is no matter where you move it. I just like the clean look of the housing. It helps me get sight picture really quick when I'm looking through it. And this is a 3/16 peep, so that matches this really perfectly with the side extension that I have. That's a touch high, but that was me, not the sight. But I am hearing that little rattle when I shoot, so I would not shoot that sight without getting rid of that rattle if I was hunting. It's an easy bow to shoot. Oh, that was a little poor shot too, but that's me. But it's about a 2-inch group down range there. Still way proficient to do this test. Quick sight in. It took me about probably about 5 minutes to sight in and hit that mark at 30 yards. And so it's all these sights on the movers are going to be really quick to move and sight in. All right, here we are. We're going to take the sight off, reinstall it. So far everything is locked back down on there. Certainly I like the Bridge-Lock system from Mathews. It's nice to get it in line and integrate. I wish all the companies did like the Hoyt did from the start and just put a Picatinny mount on there. So all the manufacturers for sights and all the different companies could just have an integrated sight that's still in line, but it would just make it more consistent. So you wouldn't even have this wobble that you have here because the Picatinny mount is just been proven. It's been on sniper rifles, you know, from, oh man, since it was invented. So you're talking about pre-Vietnam. So we got it taken off, running it at the T and Tetra, the second T and Tetra. Gonna install it again, make sure we're in the divot, tighten it down, and see if it hits the same spot. I think torque on that screw isn't going to matter that much as long as you keep it bottomed out. From what I've been seeing is I've been testing different versions of the torque based off of my feel, and as long as it bottoms out, it's going to shove it in the right spot and it's going to be there. Even if you miss the hole, it should shove that down. The hole just keeps it indicated and the right sight radius for you so that you can control your elevation. Well, I don't even have to shoot 4 arrows here, 3 or 4 arrows if that hit right where I was aiming, again, right behind the pin. It's nice when you can tell if it's you or the sight. All right, that wasn't a great shot there, but you can see the results. Definitely stayed in the same spot, so you could trust that sight if you had to take it off as well. The only thing I don't like about it is it rattles at either the ring with the level in it or the optic itself. I can't determine that out here very well. All right, now we put in the Fast Eddy Axcel. This is a tried and proven sight. They've done a couple of upgrades over the last few years on their head. Again, this is a 2-pin configuration, but you can get a 3-pin vertical stack or horizontal stack, or as many pins as you want. I think they'll do up to 7 pins, but there's really no need to do more than 3 if you're gonna have a mover to begin with. When I walk in the woods with a 2-pin, I set the top pin at around 32 yards. My bottom pin, because of that, is somewhere around 45 to 48 yards, depending on the speed that I'm shooting that year out of the bow. That allows me to comfortably shoot 50 yards and less without having to use a rangefinder. I found myself in that spot a lot, so I practice judging 50 yards and under. After 50 yards, I'm gonna range find because I'm not very good at it after that distance. And I'm gonna try to move the sight and shoot off of that pin that I've got it set for. So I'm usually more looking at 50 or under for my shots. So one thing you notice from the Fast Eddy, they have a lock lever right here that I've already moved and sighted in at 30. Their pin, the elevate or the right and left, the windage pin is a little harder to reach on this. The dial is a little bigger. They've cut a lot of metal out of it. Same pin head. They even reduced the amount of throw that you can get off of their pin setup here for the gang adjustment. And they cut some metal out of the sight radius because they found them hardly anybody was running the sight out at full extension. The people that were typically like your 30-inch draw guys that had massive speed to begin with, and they could get that range and the distance. But the further out you run your sight radius, the less distance you can get out of the bow. Some of that has to correlate with the peep height as well. So if you run a lower peep, you're gonna struggle with distance, and if you run a long extension on your sight, you're definitely gonna struggle. So I run all my sights at the mid-range or even closer in, so I can get maximum distance out of it when I'm shooting mountain challenges or tack shoots or anything like that, where you're gonna be challenged to shoot past 100 yards, you know, for shooting foam animals. I know guys that hunt there, it's just not me, it's not my style. I like to call them in and get them closer. I'm not some great expert on elk hunting. I've killed my fair share of elk though, and by far only one has been past 45 yards, and it was 47 yards. And that's just what I enjoy. So now we're gonna test this Fast Eddy Axcel. Again, we're not going on if it's the same location as the Tetra or any other sight. We're just going on if it groups well, and then we take it out and put it back in the same extension. All right, got a nice little group down there. Wouldn't be disappointed with that. One of the things I do when I'm hunting is I rarely will aim at the heart because it's in line with the scapula. If the legs are straight down, if it's got to step forward with that front leg, then I will try to aim a little bit lower in the lungs. But I do like to take a mid-lung shot. There's not as much blood and blood vessels there, but when I double lung it, the animal, you usually hear the thud on the ground. So my perfect shot will be somewhere right in here where I can include part of the heart and get a lot of external blood. But the main reason I'm shooting at this right now is just because it's easy to aim at and it's easy for you to see what we're doing. All right, now we need to take it off. Put it in the same extension. I've got it on one of the bracing bars there, or one of the cross bars. So we got it right here on this extension. It's out now. If you wanted to pack it around, do whatever you wanted to do, shove it back in there, run it back to the same location. again, you're gonna watch the sight pivot. So when I put pressure on, it's gonna pivot and move down to the base. So now where this set screw is located on, it's forced the sight rail down on the bottom 2 sections of the bridge lock. So there's a tiny gap, about a 1/16 of a gap in the back, and the top is got about the same thing too, because it's forced down now. So easy enough to tell that that one is as accurate as any of them. It's got that 2-pin look that I like the HHA Tetra as well. But I like the durability of the Spot Hogg. All right, now we have the black gold Ascent on here. They do make a Pro model as well, and the Pro model is gonna have all the micro adjustments on the pins, the windage, and the right up and down. We chose this one because I readily had it available in the shop. We saw a lot of them, and we wanted to test what we sold the most of from that company. And so this is it right here. 3rd axis adjustment on the rail. It's got a Delron sleeve on here that's a little vulnerable, but it does run up and down really smooth. And when you get to the top of this, the most common mistake people make is they run it to the top and it grabs on the teeth, and then they keep going on the gear, and then they hog that out. So it's like spinning your tires in the sand. So Black Gold has an unconditional lifetime warranty. They'll replace it at no cost, but it's inconvenient if it does happen, so you want to watch that. You'll notice that the photochromatic lens turned dark purple because the sun's out. It'll stay that way to help dull down the pin, so that's their answer to not needing a rheostat, because it's going to dull depending on the UV light from the sun. So I think I got it close here at 30 yards. Took me about 5 or 6 arrows to get there, and then we're gonna try this and see where it groups. All right, that slapped that arrow, and that's what we want. So a good group there with it, the Black Gold Ascent installed. We will go pull that sight and reinstall it and see if it hits the same spot. All right, pretty much full extension. There's one more tick mark there, but you couldn't really use it with the bridge lock system because some part of the bar has to be on the back. So we're gonna uninstall this and reinstall it, see if it hits the same spot again. We expect that it will. It'd be surprising if it doesn't. Second index in. So what you notice me doing is I just run it in until it touches, and then I wiggle it until it's in the spot where it was before. Then we're going to shoot them again. Accurate enough. And that's with a bent tip that's bent up a solid 1/8 of an inch. So discount that high shot that I shot, and there's your Black Gold Ascent. Now we have one of CBE's top movers. It's got a 2-pin indicator similar to the Black Gold, so you can identify either the bottom 2 pins or the top and the bottom pin, so those can be moved around and put where you want, just very much like the Mountain Light does have. It's got a 2nd, 3rd axis adjustment. It's offset on the bracket so that it can pull the housing over to the side. So your dial's on this side, the lock's on this side. So I do like them on the same side. So the HHA and the Booney have become really familiar to me really quick because you have the unlock and the dial on the same side. So when you have to reach over to the other side, it's becoming less convenient. It was never an issue in the past because that's how they were all made, but now they've started having locks on the bottom, but I'm really liking the locks that are on the same side. So we'll shoot this one in as well. This one has a micro pin adjustability too. The optics, the pins aren't going to be as strong, I don't think, but the pin is clear for younger eyes. Since I'm 51 going on 52, that pin's a little harder for me to see. I'm using a bottom pin on that, so it's gonna probably show up really bright here, but when I'm looking through my peep, it is not as bright as the others that I've tested so far. It's the dullest of all of them, especially in any shadow. All right, I'm not sure if I like that. I think a lot of it has to do with the pin clarity to me, because that pin is harder for me to see. And because of that, that wasn't a great group. I probably need to do that one again, and I think I will before I take it out. That's my worst group so far. I'm not concerned about the location so much as the group size. That's about a 2.5, 3 inch group. There wasn't a lot of wind, a little bit, but I think it was just me having a hard time seeing the pin, so I'll shoot it one more time. All right, this is gonna be round 2 on the CBE site. The pins are a little harder for me to see, so it affected my groups, I think, and I was shooting a little bit right, so I went ahead and put a few more clicks with the micro adjustment on there, so I should pull it back over to the left into that red spot that we want to see, and try it again. All right, that'll be much better. That's about a 1.5 inch group now. 2 are touching and one is just slightly to the left. So that's what we're looking for. And we'll take it out and shoot it again. One thing that's important when you're shooting and when you're shopping in the store, if you can get the shop to let you, take that sight outside. Even if it's in the package, a lot of the packages are set up so it'll display it well and you can see how bright the fiber optics are. But I definitely lean towards the Spot Hogg for their optics and the clarity. It's got a bulletproof pin on it. It would be near impossible to get to anything. The pin is drilled through, machined through, so that only the tip of the optic is exposed. So I can't imagine that you're gonna snag or break that optic on anything in the woods. If you do, you're gonna probably smash your pins to begin with, which would be really hard with a CNC machine pin. Black Gold uses a CNC pin too. That's a big difference in the way that the optic installs and the clarity is. So keep that in mind when you're shopping. Is shop for strong pins, shop for durability, shop for repeatability, and make sure it is doing the job that you paid for it to do. All right, so we're on the number 2. Theirs is listed 1, 2, and 3. Pretty convenient there for CBE. That's nice. And I'm gonna reinstall it. If I can find the right spot there. I'm gonna run it in here. Theirs has the most movement as well so far. So when I tighten that down, that really cinches and it moves that side a lot. So if you didn't have it tightened down, it's definitely going to affect your elevation and probably your windage too, but definitely your elevation. That's why I didn't run it in the number 1 configuration, because the end of the dovetail was just a little shy on that bridge lock and it felt like it was diving down even more. So I went to where the rail was sticking out of the back so it would push it down equally. So on the reinstall here, based off of just features alone and machining alone and the parts alone is what would cause you to choose one side over the other. It wouldn't be repeatability, because right now every site that we have tested has hit the same mark even after we've reinstalled it. There we go. Nice tight group down there. We got the Trophy Ridge left, and then we'll see what these sights can really take. We now have the final, which is the Trophy Ridge. Now this sight comes only in a hard mount. You have to buy the extension or the dovetail as an extra component. It only has one indicator on there, so there's not any place you can put it except for right where it is. It looks like it was specifically made for the Mathews Bridge-Lock system. So I'm not sure if it'll fit in the Bowtech that just created one as well that's specifically for the black gold. So we'll see. Now siding this in, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about it. It's bigger, it's bulkier, it's offset. It's still got a second and third axis. It looks like there's just more stuff that can get bent on it. The bottom pin is a small little 10,000ths pin. It's a vertical pin there, but it's going to be a little harder to see in low light, and that would be your mover. It was really hard to reach around. Their lock is on the opposite side too, but it's also one thing I noticed about it, it was a little further down, so you couldn't just reach over and get it. You had to turn the bow on the opposite side and then reach over. So just for that alone, it would take that off the market for me, because I would not want to have to go back and forth after I've spent time range finding an animal or a target. So going back and forth, looking at your indicator, unlocking it, locking it back down, that would just be too much for me. So this one's made in China as well, so that's another strike against it. It doesn't mean I don't like Chinese products. It just means if I can buy an American-based product for near the same money, I'm going to look and shop for that. The plastic ring is making a little bit more noise. That holds the optic in there. It doesn't have a rheostat. That's exclusive to black gold, so it's going to continue to stay bright, which can help that little 10,000ths pin, but again, I think that's just a little too much for me. All right, now those felt like they were pretty good shots, and it's a little bit spread out in elevation than what I would want to see. The right and left's fine, but elevation spread out a little bit more. We're gonna take that side out and reinstall it and check it out, and then we'll do our final part of the test. We are going to take this side off, reinstall it. I'll show you it's only got the one indent as well. So it's only got the one indent. So I'm pretty sure this was built exclusively, if you buy this dovetail, to fit in the Mathews Bridge-Lock system. Didn't seem to find the hole as easy either. I don't know if that was andizing or the hole's just got a strange radius to it. So there's a few checks on the box that I don't care for the sight. At least it's my least favorite sight of the ones that we're testing. All right, so maybe it is the same spot there. Those two arrows slapped, and maybe a slightly higher impact than before. But again, I don't think that's any kind of a deal killer if you had to take the sight off and reinstall it again. I think the key part would be to make sure that you are sighting your bow back into the area that you're hunting. So if you hunt in Wyoming or Colorado or whatever, and you live on the East Coast or West Coast, and you're not from that area, you would want to take time to sight back in, because you don't want to get there, spend all that time and effort and money, and then find out that just because you installed the sight slightly different, that it's off. But in these cases, on all these sights, we didn't test everyone on the market, just the ones that we had and sell, with the exception of the Trophy Ridge and the HHA. We don't typically stock those in those configurations, but we will if they pass our durability test. So that's it for that part. Now here's the fun part. So we're gonna test some durability here. Everybody abuses their stuff when they go out, but you want something that's pretty bulletproof, pretty bomb-proof. This is hard to test because you're gonna fall in different ways, but we're gonna do our best shot here. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little bit of a drop test, but there's gonna be a little bit of elevation. So I'm gonna put about 15 feet of air on these and then see what happens. Okay, that just rained down. They all fell pretty far apart, so nothing clanged against each other, so nothing hit anything but dirt. So if I can do this all in one take, we will. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little log drop on them too. So we'll get them back together here. and we'll drop a log on each one of them, because, you know, when you're hunting, that's what you can do. So I don't know what we should do, if we should just drop them on it twice. I think we'll probably do that. We'll drop them on it twice. This is about $2,000 plus $2,000 worth of sights here. So this is a true Consumer Reports here. We don't want to be biased towards any one particular product. Let me make sure I got that in film first. That's about a 10-pound log there. It's an old fire camp log that I found, and I think we want to see this take some abuse here. This is the HHA Tetra, and then we're going to, of course, reinstall it and see what happens. We know where it was hitting before. Ooh, that was solid. Took a chunk. Well, it didn't take a chunk out of anything. Everything stayed tight. It just put a lot of dirt in part of the rail. So we're going to drop it this way now with the sight in the dirt. That's pretty solid too. All right, so there's one bent. It looks like it for sure bent the windage knob. It looks like it'll still function. Yeah, it'll still function, but it looks like it bent it just a little bit. So we'll get the HHA out of the way. What are we gonna test next? Let's test the landslide. See if we can get it to land there. Same thing, drove it in, shoves a lot of dirt on it. Sight took a decent amount of impact there, and then gonna try to land it the same way there. Ooh, that's solid too. Oh, for sure that bent. I know that bent. Bent your third axis or twisted the third axis, so you want to make sure you keep those tight. The CBE. Decent amount of impact there. All these extra little knobs and gears when you fall are going to become an issue if you shove your bow in the dirt. Now, we all try not to, but we know for a fact that sometimes it happens. And this is the best way to test third axis bending too. So when we drop, ooh, that did not survive. I don't think we're going to be testing that. It broke the Delron. So problem with the plastic slides or the Delron slides, snapped it right off. So if you shove this in the dirt, you're going to break that sight. So you would have to gingerly fall or put your cam in the dirt or limb pocket, something other than the sight head, because it's not going to survive. All right, here's my hopeful here. This is the Booney. Oh, that got deeper. Shoved it in the dirt pretty good, and I'm going to test side impact. Bent it as well. I can tell it's off, so I don't even know if I'm gonna have enough arrows to shoot at 30 yards, because I know some of them aren't even gonna hit the target. So could just be the third axis screws bent, it could be the head or the housing bent, but it is definitely loose now. The Trophy Ridge. Maybe this is too hard of a test. You tell me. Leave a comment for me. Shoved it in the dirt. This is the hardest test on it right here, is this third axis test. Ooh, another break. All right, oh, this is a true sign of pot metal. So this is Chinese metal, so it broke and sheared off at the metal, but you can tell it is not machined. It is cast metal, so cast aluminum, and it snapped off right where you'd expect it to at the weak spot. So it didn't give a chance for the third axis to engage or to hold that stress. So both Chinese sights so far completely broke. I have a sneaking suspicion the Black Gold Ascent will do the same thing too. I'm surprised at that. Usually the little plastic caps that hold the fiber optic will break. They'll replace them if it does. Oh, sorry, this way. Well, again, That Delron slide, any of the sites that have had a Delron slide will completely snap and break. All right, and then the Fast Eddy Axcel. All right, so the only US made one that broke so far is the black gold, and I expected it to snap right where it is. I've seen that come back as for warranty. Now they'll replace that for me. So they'll replace anything that breaks on that. That shoved that in about 1.5 inches in the dirt. And then, oops, I missed. Don't count that. All right. Ooh, that looks like it bent a little bit on the third axis. It's something a little bit looser now. It could be at the screw here. So it could be on your windage screw that's breaking, not the third axis. So we'll send the results to all these companies and see what they have to say. They'll say you shouldn't be dropping logs on it. And it's not a question of dropping logs on it. It's a question of when you fall and shove it in the dirt, what will they do for you? Each company is going to be different. So let's reinstall these. So we'll go ahead and put this Fast Eddy Axcel back in the sight or in the bow. Reinstall it where we had it. Then we're going to shoot a shot and see how far off that is. Same spot. I know the head's bent, so the third axis is going to be off. I can see it bent from here, but I don't think it's the third axis, to be honest. On the Spot Hogg, I think it's the actual windage block, and it may have stressed the stainless steel gear that runs the right and left back and forth. We'll see here. Can't tell. It's a little looser for sure. We'll see if it fall that hard, and that was a 10-pound log, at least 10 or 12 pounds. We'll see if that's going to hit anything here. So let's hope, because I've only got 4 arrows left. Ooh, so that is above the lungs. You would likely miss that target. So that's the same thing, sighted in the same way as I had, and we hit above the lungs on that. So that's for sure surprising to me, because the Spot Hogg usually has a lot of durability. Kept the right and left pretty good though, so what it must have done is when it bent it, it twisted it up. So I think that's savable though. So with an impact that hard, you would want to go back to your home or base, and you would want to check that out, sight back in, third axis adjustment. I can tell what happened on this one. The third axis actually twisted. It looks like because it twisted, it saved the sight possibly. So we'll see what happens with this one. Then we'll run down and pull some arrows after we do the next sight. All right, it was set it up at 30 with the bottom pin. Oh man, this is very possibly gonna miss the whole thing. I see the whole thing is twisted down, so the second and the third axis moved in a big way. So you may see me launch an arrow here. I'm gonna aim at the same spot as I did and hope it doesn't climb over the target. Because right now it looks like I've moved it another ½ inch down the rail. Oh, that's surprising. That's by far acceptable if you had to shoot with it in that configuration. Would I recommend it? No. I would recommend that you take the fall, go back and sight back in, check and see if anything broke, and then this test alone would tell you to have a backup. Either a backup bow or a complete backup sight. And what if you break your bow when you fall? What are you going to do then? We're at the second tee in Tetra here. So the the Spot Hogg Fast Eddy Axcel and the Axcel landslide so far. All right, this is the HHA. Ooh, all right, so it's about 6 or 8 inches high. Elevation stayed the same on it, so that's good. All right, I'm out of bullets. I'm gonna run down, grab some more bullets. So what that tells me with all three of those shots for those last 3 sights that we shot, we're good on the right and left, but I know the third axis moved on a couple. What it does tell me though is it is hard to tell what exactly happened. I'm pretty sure the second axis moved on them too. That's what we experienced there. So put it a little bit better in view there. All right, CBE, oh, can't test that. And Trophy Ridge and Black Gold. So last one we can test is the Booney. I can feel it's rattling. It is at the windage block itself. That's a little weaker. So it twisted the windage block or bent the screw that's holding the windage block. So we're gonna see how that impacts the arrow. I don't think you'll ever fall that hard, but anything's possible. If you have and you broke your sight, leave a comment. Let's not overly trash a specific company because you can break anything. Guys can break steel ball bearings, so you know we can break a sight. So this test is more of what you're paying for and what you want on there and what could survive. So I'm going to tell you right now, based off of everything that I've seen here, I don't think that I will shoot anything with a Delron rail anymore because that's a weak point and it can break. The Chinese metal, obviously that is not the same style of construction that we use here in the US. So it's not going to survive that, I don't think, durability wise either. One snapped off at the metal, one broke off at the Delron. And here's the last one is the Booney. Well, that's about maybe about 3 inches left and about 4 inches high. So it's loose. You can tell something happened to it. You would have to take that apart and re-tighten down everything again. The rail is solid. It's the head that is weak on all these sights, guys. So it's just your second and third axis and your windage block, that's going to be the weak point. So I can tell I bent the rail here. This is loose here. So what it is I can tell I flex the windage screw that goes back and forth, and because of that it's giving it some slop there. Could it still finish a hunt? Yeah. Would I shoot 50 yards? No. 30 yards after I've tested it and sighted it back in for that. So here's the clear winners, guys. You got your HHA Tetra, you got your Axcel Landslide, you got your Fast Eddy Axcel, and you've got your Spot Hogg Booney. So all of these have one thing in common. They all have a metal rail that runs up and down. So that didn't take any damage at all. No bend, no twist, no anything. What took it the most on the Axcel was it just twisted the third axis screw, which is good because that helped absorb some impact. So this Landslide is a solid sight, and I would put money on any of these sights here. You can tell by what we've got, the carnage and the destruction. You can choose for yourself. Leave a comment, let us know what you think. In the comments below. If you want to see more consumer reports like this that are true tests of the industry manufacturers' products, let us know in your comments. We'll do our best. This was $2,000 worth of sights that we just bought to test equally and do the same test on everything. I don't think you're going to be falling and hitting wood like that, but we have all taken weird falls. So your CBE came in 2 parts, your Trophy Ridge came in 2 parts, and your Black Gold came in 2 parts. All the weak spot was the rails or the pot metal from China. The ones that survived are your Landslide, your HHA, and both of the Fast Eddy and the Boonies. All metal sights on there, and all US constructed, and your third axis moved on all of them, and your second axis moved them all on all of them. And in a couple of spots it bent a screw, but it's still usable in the field if you took a fall that hard. So let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll try to do that. This is a very fair test Took a big chunk of metal out of that too, but that's pretty good. Survived pretty good. I'm impressed. I like the HHA. I like the black gold until that test, but I have seen some break off. I definitely became a bigger fan of the landslide. I didn't think it would be as durable as it is, but it proved me wrong. And the Spot Hogg, of course, it's pretty bomb proof as well. So appreciate you guys watching, and give us a like and subscribe. You'll see more videos just like this.